My name is Marie Johnson, and I'm 40 years old. It was a day like any other, or so I thought. I had just finished work and was driving home, eager to relax and unwind. I remember feeling a little off, but I brushed it aside, assuming it was just fatigue from a busy day. The roads were quiet, and the sun was setting, painting the sky with warm shades of orange and pink. I had no idea that this ordinary evening would change my life forever. As I drove, a sudden, sharp pain shot through my chest. It was unlike anything I'd ever felt before, intense and all-consuming. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly as my vision began to blur. Panic crept in, but before I could make sense of what was happening, everything went dark. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the car anymore. I was floating above it. Below me, I saw my own body slumped over the steering wheel, motionless. Paramedics were rushing to the scene, their faces filled with urgency as they worked to save me. The flashing lights of the ambulance illuminated the darkening sky, creating a surreal scene that felt like a dream, or maybe a nightmare. But what struck me most was the calm I felt. I wasn't scared. Not in the way you'd expect. Instead, I was overwhelmed by a strange sense of peace. It was as if I instinctively knew that I was being cared for, that everything was happening as it should. I could see and hear everything, the frantic voices, the sirens, the rush of activity, but I wasn't tethered to it. I was watching from a distance, detached yet deeply curious. Where was I? What was happening to me? Little did I know, this was just the beginning of an extraordinary journey. As I floated above the scene of my lifeless body, something caught my attention. A light in the distance. It wasn't like any light I had ever seen before. It wasn't harsh or blinding, but soft and inviting, almost like it was calling me. The best way I can describe it is that it felt alive, like a warm embrace reaching out to me. I couldn't resist the pull of it. It was as if every part of me knew I was meant to go toward it. With each moment, I felt lighter, freer, like invisible weights I hadn't even realized I was carrying were being lifted. The stress, the fear, the doubts that had been part of my life, they all seemed to melt away the closer I got. The chaos of the scene below, the flashing lights, the frantic paramedics, even my own still body, faded into the background. None of it mattered anymore. All that mattered was the peace radiating from that light. It wasn't just around me, it was within me, filling every part of my being with comfort and love. I didn't resist. I couldn't. I let myself drift toward it, completely at peace, not knowing what lay ahead. As I moved closer to the radiant light, I realized it wasn't just a light. It was alive, pulsing with love and warmth. The closer I got, the more I felt my entire being enveloped in peace. It wasn't just the absence of fear, it was the presence of something far greater. A love so profound, it made me want to weep, not out of sadness, but pure gratitude. Then I saw him. At first, I felt his presence before I truly saw him. It's hard to explain, but it was as if his essence was everywhere, filling the space around me. And then, there he was, Jesus. I knew it was him, not because of any grand introduction, but because every part of my soul recognized him. He radiated a love so pure, so unconditional, that it brought me to my knees. At first, he didn't speak, but he didn't need to. His eyes, oh, his eyes, were unlike anything I'd ever seen. They were filled with compassion and understanding, and as he looked at me, I felt completely known. Every flaw, every mistake, every triumph, and every struggle. I didn't need to explain any of it. He already knew. In his presence, there was no judgment, no condemnation, only love. It wasn't the kind of love I'd known on earth, which often feels conditional or fleeting. This love was infinite, overwhelming, and healing. It wrapped around me like a warm blanket on a cold day, making me feel safe, whole, and accepted in a way I never thought possible. As he stood there, his silence spoke volumes. It was as if he was saying, "You are enough. You are loved. You always have been." In that moment, all the doubts and fears I'd carried for years, my worries about my worth, my purpose, my failures, just disappeared. They were replaced with a deep sense of belonging and clarity. Finally, he extended his hand to me, not as a command, but as an invitation. "Come closer," he seemed to say. And as I stepped forward, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace, as though I was exactly where I was always meant to be. That moment changed everything. I had never felt so loved, so accepted, or so understood. It was the beginning of a revelation that would stay with me forever. As I stood in awe before Jesus, feeling completely embraced by his love and acceptance, something unexpected happened. His gaze shifted and he looked at my hands. It wasn't a casual glance. It was intentional, filled with meaning. Gently, he gestured for me to look at them too. I lifted my palms, and to my surprise, I noticed something I'd seen countless times, but never thought twice about: a faint M shape formed by the creases on my skin. I had always dismissed it as ordinary, just a natural line everyone has. But now, in his presence, the mark began to glow softly, as though responding to his attention. I looked at him, confused yet curious, and then he spoke. His voice wasn't just heard, it was felt, resonating deep within my soul. "This mark," he said, "is not random. It is a part of you, placed there with purpose. It's a reminder of who you are and why you're here." I was stunned. I had always struggled with questions about my worth and purpose, wondering if my life truly mattered. And here was Jesus, telling me that this small, seemingly insignificant mark was, in fact, a divine imprint. He explained that the M carried a special meaning: mission, mercy, and manifestation. Mission, he began, is the unique calling God has placed on your life. You were created with intention, not by chance. This mark is a sign of the work you are meant to do, the lives you are meant to touch, and the love you are meant to share. Even when you doubt it yourself, this mark was a silent reminder that your journey has purpose. I thought back to moments in my life when I felt drawn to help others, even when it wasn't easy or convenient. It was as if he was revealing that those instincts weren't random. They were a part of my divine mission. Mercy, he continued, is the heart of this mark. It is a reminder to lead with compassion, to forgive freely, and to show love to those who need it most. Just as you have been shown mercy, you are called to extend it to others. This is how God's love flows through you. His words stirred something deep inside me. I realized how often I had been hard on myself and others, holding on to grudges or doubts. But in that moment, I understood that mercy wasn't just something to receive. It was something to give, a way to embody God's love. Finally, he spoke of manifestation. He explained that the mark also symbolized the ability to bring divine intentions into reality. Through your faith and actions, you can manifest God's love in the world. You have the power to create change, to bring light into darkness, and to inspire others to see the divine in themselves. Hearing this filled me with a sense of empowerment I had never felt before. I realized that the M wasn't just a mark on my hands. It was a message written into my being. It wasn't there to remind me of who I wasn't. It was there to remind me of who I was meant to be. As I stood there, Jesus smiled warmly, as if to say, "Now you understand." And I did. The mark was so much more than I had ever imagined. It was a sign of my connection to the divine, a calling to live with purpose, love, and intention. Looking back at my hands, I no longer saw something ordinary. I saw a promise, a divine imprint that told me my life was deeply meaningful, no matter how small or insignificant it sometimes felt. That realization changed the way I viewed not just myself, but the world around me. Before that moment, I had been searching for answers, for meaning, for direction. But now I knew the answers were already with me, written into the very fabric of who I was. The M mark was my reminder, my guide, and my promise from God that I was never alone in this journey. After Jesus revealed the meaning of the M mark on my hands, He gently led me into what I can only describe as a life review. It wasn't like watching a movie or flipping through a photo album. It was so much deeper than that. My entire life began to unfold before me, moment by moment, but not in the way I'd ever experienced before. It wasn't just about seeing what had happened. It was about understanding the meaning and impact of my choices. Each scene felt incredibly vivid, more real than any memory I had ever recalled. But what struck me the most was how I could feel everything, not just my emotions, but the emotions of those around me. It was as if I was living each moment again, but this time with a much broader perspective. The first memory Jesus showed me was a simple one. A time I stopped to help a stranger whose car had broken down on the side of the road. I had barely thought about it since it happened, but now I could see how that small act of kindness had rippled out in ways I never imagined. The stranger, who had been having a terrible day, went home feeling uplifted. Because of that, he treated his family with extra patience and love, and that positivity carried forward into their lives. I was in awe. How could something so small have such a profound impact? Jesus smiled as if he could sense my wonder. "Every choice matters," he said, "even the ones you think are insignificant." Then he showed me other moments, ones I wasn't as proud of, times when I had spoken harshly out of frustration or failed to act when I could have helped. I could feel the hurt I had caused, not in a way that made me feel condemned, but in a way that made me deeply aware of how my actions affected others. It wasn't about punishment, it was about learning. One moment that stood out was an argument I had with a close friend. At the time, I was so focused on being right that I didn't realize how my words had wounded her. Now I could feel her pain as clearly as if it were my own. But Jesus didn't let me linger in guilt. His presence was so filled with love and understanding that it reminded me this wasn't about blame, it was about growth. As the review continued, I saw a tapestry forming. Every choice, every action, every word was like a thread, weaving together to create something far greater than I could comprehend. Even the smallest decisions contributed to the bigger picture of my life and how it connected with others. Jesus showed me moments where I had doubted myself, where I thought I wasn't making a difference. But through His eyes, I saw that even in those times, I was still part of a larger plan. The ripple effects of my choices were far-reaching, touching people in ways I couldn't have imagined. By the end of the review, I felt overwhelmed, not by shame or regret, but by gratitude. Gratitude for the opportunities I had been given to grow, to love, and to make a difference. Jesus reminded me that while I couldn't change the past, I had the power to shape my future. "Every moment is a chance to align your choices with love," he said. That life review was one of the most humbling and enlightening experiences of my journey. It showed me that my life, with all its flaws and imperfections, was still meaningful and valuable. Each choice mattered, and I had the ability to make choices that reflected God's love and purpose moving forward. After my life review, Jesus gently guided me into a place that was beyond anything I could have ever imagined. It wasn't just a realm I saw, it was a realm I felt, something alive and vibrant, filled with love and harmony. As I stepped forward, I was immediately enveloped by a light so pure and warm that it seemed to reach into every corner of my soul. It wasn't just light in the physical sense, it was alive, pulsing with energy, radiating peace, and filling me with a profound sense of belonging. The first thing I noticed was the landscape. It was breathtaking in a way I struggle to put into words. There were rolling fields filled with flowers that shimmered with colors I'd never seen on Earth. Each petal seemed to glow as though it carried its own light. Rivers flowed like streams of liquid crystal, reflecting the vibrant hues of the sky. The air itself seemed alive, humming softly with a melody that wasn't just heard, it was felt. The most remarkable part was the connection I felt to everything around me. The trees, the rivers, the flowers. It was as though they were all part of the same divine essence, each one connected to me and to one another. I didn't feel like a visitor in this place. I felt like I belonged. As I continued to move through this realm, I began to sense the presence of others. They weren't like people in the way we see them on Earth, but they were unmistakably real. They were radiant beings, each one glowing with a unique light. Their presence exuded joy and harmony, and I could feel their love as though it was being poured directly into me. They didn't speak with words, but their essence communicated something so profound: acceptance, peace, and unity. I remember feeling an overwhelming sense of awe. This place wasn't just beautiful, it was perfect. There was no fear, no doubt, no pain. Every part of it seemed to radiate God's love, and it was impossible not to feel completely embraced by that love. What struck me most was the unity. In this divine space, there were no barriers, no separations. Everything and everyone was interconnected, flowing together in harmony. It was as though the entire realm was one great symphony, and I was a single note within it, essential yet part of something infinitely greater. Jesus stood beside me, his presence radiant and steady, and he smiled as if to say, "This is what you were made for." I realized then that this wasn't just a vision of heaven. It was a reminder of the connection that exists, even in our earthly lives. We are all part of this divine unity, even if we don't always see it. In that moment, I felt a peace I had never known, a peace that came from understanding that I was deeply loved and that I belonged to something far greater than myself. This place wasn't just a destination, it was a promise, a glimpse of what waits for us when we fully step into the light. As I stood before Jesus in that divine space, feeling his love envelop me, he began to speak. His words weren't just spoken, they seemed to resonate within me, reaching the deepest parts of my heart. There was a calmness in his voice, and yet each word was filled with such profound wisdom and truth. He first spoke about the challenges we face in life. I had often wondered why hardships seemed to follow me, why pain and struggle felt like constant companions. But Jesus gently reminded me that these challenges are not punishments. They are opportunities. Opportunities for growth, for learning, for becoming who we are meant to be. Every trial you endure is an opportunity for your soul to grow, he said. The struggles you face are not there to defeat you. They are there to shape you into the person you are meant to become. His words were a revelation to me. I had always thought of challenges as obstacles, things to avoid. But now I saw them differently. They were stepping stones, each one designed to build strength, character, and resilience. And as I look back over my life, I realized that the moments I had found most difficult were often the ones that had shaped me the most. Next, Jesus spoke about forgiveness. I had carried guilt in my heart for many years. Guilt for mistakes I had made, for things I hadn't done, for ways I had hurt others or myself. But Jesus reminded me that forgiveness is always available. "There is nothing you have done that cannot be forgiven," he said. "You are never beyond the reach of my love and mercy." Those words were like a weight lifting off my shoulders. I had always thought I had to earn forgiveness, that I wasn't worthy of it. But Jesus showed me that forgiveness is a gift. It's not something we earn, but something we accept. And once we accept it, we are freed from the burdens of guilt and shame that hold us back. He then turned my attention back to the faint M mark on my hands. He explained that this mark was not just a random crease, but a divine sign. "This mark is a symbol of your purpose," he said. "It's a reminder of who you are and what you are called to do." As he spoke, I began to understand. The M wasn't just a part of me. It was a part of a greater divine plan. Jesus explained that the mark represented more than just my own personal journey. It was a symbol of my connection to the divine, a reminder that I was created with purpose and intention. The M mark represents mercy, mission, and manifestation, he continued. Mercy, because you are called to lead with love and compassion. Mission, because you are part of a greater plan, and every action you take is part of that plan. And manifestation, because through your faith and actions, you have the power to bring God's love and intentions into reality. I felt an overwhelming sense of purpose as he spoke. I had always questioned my worth, wondered if I was truly making a difference. But now, standing in the presence of Jesus, I understood that my life had meaning. Every choice I made, every action I took, was part of a divine plan that was far greater than I could comprehend. Finally, Jesus gave me a message of hope. No matter where you are in life, he said, you are always loved. You are never alone, and you are never beyond redemption. His words were a reminder that no matter how lost or broken we may feel, there is always hope. Redemption is not about what we have done wrong, but about accepting God's love and moving forward with the knowledge that we are always held in His embrace. As he spoke, I realized that the message he had for me was not just for me, it was for everyone. We are all part of this divine plan, and we are all worthy of love, forgiveness, and hope. As I stood before Jesus, His presence filled me with a sense of peace I had never known before. He began to speak softly, but His words carried a weight of love and truth that resonated deeply within me. He began by talking about the struggles we face in life. I had often viewed challenges as obstacles, something to avoid or fear. But Jesus turned that view upside down. "Marie," he said gently, "the challenges you face are not meant to break you. They are meant to help you grow." His words struck me deeply. Every hardship, every difficult moment was not a punishment, but an opportunity to become stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. He explained that our struggles help shape us into the person we are meant to be, and that, in the end, they reveal the strength within us. "Embrace your trials," he said, "for they are part of your journey toward becoming whole." Then Jesus spoke of forgiveness. For so long, I had carried the weight of guilt in my heart, regret for things I had done, and things I had left undone. "You are forgiven," he assured me. "There is nothing in your past that cannot be forgiven." His words were a balm to my soul. I realized that forgiveness isn't something I need to earn. It's a gift I can freely accept. No matter what I had done, His love was enough to wash it all away. He pointed to the faint M mark on my hands and explained its divine meaning. "This mark represents your purpose," he said. "You are connected to a greater plan." It was a reminder that I wasn't alone, that my life had meaning beyond what I could see, and that everything I did was part of a bigger divine picture. When I returned to my earthly body, I awoke with a sudden jolt, as though I had been pulled from one world and dropped back into another. My vision blurred, and I found myself struggling to catch my breath. But something was different. I was no longer the same person I had been before. My mind felt clear, my heart full of peace, and there was a profound sense of purpose that flooded every part of me. It was as if my entire being had been rewired, reawakened. I lay there for a while, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand everything that had just happened. The experience I had just lived through was so vivid, so real, and so powerful that I could hardly believe I was back in the physical world. But I knew one thing for certain. I was different. I had been shown the truth about life, about love, and about my own purpose, and I couldn't keep it to myself. I started to reflect on the lessons I had learned during my time with Jesus. He had shown me the deeper meaning behind everything, the struggles I had faced, the people I had met, and the impact of my actions. I had always felt like something was missing, like there was a bigger reason for my life, but I had never been able to put it into words. Now I understood. I was meant to help others find their purpose too. The M mark on my hands wasn't just a sign of my own divine mission. It was a reminder to everyone that we all have a purpose, and it's something we're meant to discover and embrace. It wasn't always going to be easy. I knew there would still be challenges, but I had a new perspective now. I saw every moment as an opportunity for growth. I felt a deep responsibility to live my life with love and intention, to guide others, and to show them the mercy and grace I had received. My heart swelled with gratitude as I thought about everything Jesus had revealed to me. I knew that my testimony could help others find the same clarity and peace that I had found. I didn't want to keep it hidden. I wanted to share my experience with the world, hoping that others would be inspired to discover their own divine mission, just as I had discovered mine. Now, every day, I try to live with purpose. I look at the M mark on my hands and remember the promise it holds, and I hope that through my story, someone else will find the courage to walk their own spiritual path, knowing that they are never alone and that their life has meaning.